right, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like Glaive Kyo is back at it again with another banger video. The number 2 Kurobot is never lacking. Let's just say that. And today, he's talking about why Genshin's biggest defender just proved why Wuthering Waves is better. And I don't know if you guys have all seen this video by Jeff on his daily channel. It is one of the most absurd, the most ridiculous framings Wuthering Waves has ever received. Brother Man just works off of his closed beta test experience, right? He has never played the game after the first 2 months, and he's still clinging to those original takes that are close to a year old to talk about why the game is not good. He talks about co-op for like 9 minutes, about why Wuthering Waves' co-op is just awful and doesn't make sense, when it has quite literally one of the best co-op experiences in the gacha genre, and has proven that across multiple events that were very high difficulty, extremely interactive, and perhaps most importantly of all, fun. And maybe that's something he's unfamiliar with. I'm excited to see how Glaive is breaking this whole situation down, because this video by him over here that we already see on the screen was one of the most rage-baity, ridiculous things I think the Wuthering Waves space has ever seen. And so with that, let's go ahead, let's dive right on into it, and let's see what Glaive is all about here.
I remember there were people being like, yeah, but then it would be too easy. But like, just make the enemies tankier accordingly. If allowing multiple characters means you're gonna end up doing like 5 times more damage in co-op, then make the enemies 5 times tankier.
Exactly what I said, right? He's going off about co-op, even though the co-op was great. He should grow the beard back. I would say he should get the facial hair back. He should definitely start grinding that back.
So one of the biggest Genshin defenders, Zayjeef77, just dropped a video titled, "Do you think it's worth it going back to Genshin?" Which, first of all, is already a hilarious premise, because the fact that we're even having this conversation tells you something, right? Anyways, the video itself, Zayjeef is responding to a viewer who basically asked, now that you've played Wuthering Waves, do you think it's worth it returning to Genshin? Now I have to say, if someone came to me with that question, my response would be simple. If you want to subject yourself to 10 hours of mental torture in a story quest that somehow manages to be both overwritten and painfully slow, who am I to stop you? If you enjoy watching your stamina bar deplete while running in a straight line out of combat,
well, Glaive, I already know the solution to that. Just pull the Natlan characters, buddy boy. You don't use stamina when you're running with Xilonen, or I'm sorry, roller skating with Xilonen. You don't lose stamina when you're on Mavuika's motorcycle. You don't lose stamina when you're swinging with Kenichi. You don't lose stamina when you're riding on Mulaney's thing. And you don't lose stamina when you're on Chaska's gun that floats everywhere. Yeah, it sounds pretty fucking ridiculous. Sounds pretty ridiculous when I talk about every method, doesn't it? But yeah, just pull all of those new characters, man, and then you can remove all of the problems you just outlined. Just pay some money, dumbass.
While running in a straight line out of combat, go off. And if you like Venti mocking you, wouldn't gliding be faster? Then by all means, be my guest. Meanwhile, in Wuthering Waves, you can literally fly, but sure, let's pretend that these games are on the same level when it comes to movement and exploration.
I think the funniest part was leading up to Rinasida's release, there were people, right, that were talking about Carlotta's inherent skill being, oh yes, your stamina cost is reduced by 15% when Carlotta's on the team for flight. And they were like, look, see, it's pay to win. It's pay to win. Wuthering Waves has exploration locked behind the gacha too, guys. Look, they're doing the exact same thing. And what these idiots didn't know was that there was food in the game that just did the exact same thing. I'll say what I've said in other videos. There's a food that gives you the gacha QOL in Wuthering Waves. Is there a food in Genshin Impact that summons a motorcycle? Is there food in Genshin Impact that summons a gun that lets me fly? I don't think so. Inferno Rider, flying, grapple, wall running, double jump, unlimited sprint, Lumi, all free. I guess Lumi's the only one that's not free, but you might get her for free.
They're both gacha games with much slower power creep than other gachas.
First of all, Zayjeef starts off by talking about how both games have slow power creep, which makes them viable for casual players. And on that point, sure, to some extent, he is right. Both Genshin and Wuthering Waves are slower in power creep compared to other gachas, and that does make it easier to step away from the game and come back later without feeling like all of your mains have turned into Honkai Star Rail character.
And I love that it's almost viewed as like a negative thing. Oh yeah, the game can't be hard. The game can't be hardcore unless you come back every 6 months and your entire roster's dog shit. Yeah, the only way a game can be hardcore is if you have to play it every single day, every single patch, and pull all the newest characters. Otherwise, it's a casual game. Guess what? You know a game called League of Legends? You know a game like Dota 2? You know a game like CSGO or Valorant? Just because a character is old or that you haven't kept up with the game, does that mean that it's suddenly like, oh, all of like the older releases are just bad? No, they're rebalanced. They're strong, right? They're in a good spot. They're still usable. Having power creep does not make a game casual, or not having power creep does not make a game casual. It actually makes a game far more competitive if you don't have power creep, because now you have so many more viable options instead of the only viable options being like 1/3 of the roster and 1/3 of the roster being the newest. That means honestly, it's less hardcore, if we're being entirely frank, if there's rampant power creep, because now there's only like 10 characters you need to focus on, and then everybody else is just dog shit. You don't even have to think about them. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like the Honkai Star Rail meta is so much more simplified because you don't even have to worry about like 70% of the roster when you're getting into discussing the meta, because you're just like, you're shit, you're shit, you're shit, you're dog shit, you're dog shit, you're dog shit. And then there's only like 5 characters you need to discuss when you're like talking about a certain mechanic or an archetype. It makes the game easier, if we're being honest. It makes the game more casual when you have all this power creep.
Turn into Honkai Star Rail characters. The whole narrative about Wuthering Waves is only for hardcore sweats is completely overblown. If you have ever heard that, throw it straight into the garbage, because even free-to-play players can clear endgame content just fine. Unless, of course, you are Captain Cabinets, who somehow struggles to clear tower adversity with an S5 GN. In that case, I regret to inform you that you are a lost cause. Thoughts
07.
and prayers. Joking aside, Captain Cabinet still clears TOA with 30 stars perfection. Now, if we are comparing this to Genshin, yeah, it is true that some of its launch units are still viable till this day. Xiangling, for example, was so cracked that for a while, the meta was literally pull characters that work well with Xiangling. No, seriously, it was a legitimate strategy. Even today, people manage to clear content with 4-star teams, though it takes significantly more effort, you know, logically. But the point stands, power creep is slow in both games.
You're likely still going to be able to clear stuff unless it's like heavily tailored towards a certain unit. And if you're not able to clear this one, it's just because none of what you have works against it. Right?
You spent so long to say a whole lot of nothing. That one, let's be honest here. Talked a whole bunch to say a whole lot of nothing. You should be able to clear with everything until you can't clear. And if you couldn't clear, it's because you couldn't clear.
Then Zajiv solidifies his point by saying that even if you only play once in a while, your characters won't become obsolete unless the end game is tailored to a specific unit. And honestly, that's even more true in Wuthering Waves than in Genshin. At least in Wuthering Waves, you don't need to worry about Hoyo for sneakily designing Spiral Abyss floors to conveniently push you into rolling for the latest limited 5-star. But hey, I digress. The main takeaway is that the power creep isn't a problem here, and there are plenty of other things to criticize. And don't worry, we're getting to those.
If you're someone who likes playing games for the story, if you're someone who likes playing game for exploration, both Genshin and WoWa are going to scratch that itch.
Here, Zajiv argues that both Genshin and Wuthering Waves have great stories and exploration. And while that sounds nice and diplomatic, let's be honest, one of these games have actually been trying in the recent updates, and the other is still shoving unskippable monologues down your throat like it's your mother on Valentine's Day. Wuthering Waves 2.0 story was phenomenal. Strong character writing, emotional weight, and actual sense of stakes. I was fully immersed. And the best part, if you don't care, you can skip it. Revolutionary, I know. It's almost like developers understand that not everyone wants to sit through hours of cutscenes every time they log in. Meanwhile, in Genshin, no skip button, no way out. You're gonna listen to every second of that dialogue, whether you like it or not.
I think this is the part that people are slowly starting to recognize. A skip button doesn't inherently hurt your game. A skip button is actually one of the best things you can add to your game. Because again, point I'll bring up until the end of time. When you have a skip button in your game, that means that your developers, your story writers, your storyboarders, they have to actually make sure that the story is worth listening to. That the story isn't a steaming pile of garbage that has like a little nugget of goodness tucked into the pile of shit that it is. And they actually have to make the entire thing enjoyable. That is what Wuthering Waves has set the standard for, and ZZZ has also set the standard for, because that means that if they do a shit fucking job, if they do an awful job, people will just skip it, stop watching it, and they'll stop experiencing it because you're not making it enjoyable for them. On the other hand, you have games like HSR and fucking Genshin Impact that are just going ahead and engaging in basically non-consensual storytelling, where they don't care if you like it or not. You just have to go through it to finish or complete the game or experience what the patch has to offer. It doesn't matter if it's dull, if it's a ridiculous monologue, if it's one of the worst things ever, you have to go through the entire thing and you're given no option. And that's leading to players simply quitting the game, getting tired of it, thinking it's absolutely garbage. So many people have just not even played the 3.0 story because the experience is so awful. And if there was a skip button, I guarantee there would be more people experiencing 3.0. More people would have played Natlan. More people would have done these things because it would have been two things. The people that don't give a fuck about Paimon and these monologues would have just skipped it. And the writers for Genshin and HSR would have had to do a way better job in their execution. Because now they know they're actually being held accountable to creating quality work. And the fact that people aren't able to recognize that, and the fact that people think that you should have to watch everything, is just one of the most disingenuous, absurd things in the space currently.
If you dare to click too fast, whoa there buddy, slow down. You might just miss Paimon repeating the same thing that the NPC just said. Now let's talk exploration, and I'm going to be very clear about this. Wuthering Waves' movement system completely dominates Genshin. This isn't even a hot take, this is just a fact. Or as Mr. Poke likes to state it, no war, just facts. In Wuthering Waves, you can grapple, double, triple, quadruple, jump, air dash, fly, do all of that with infinite stamina, and you can have them all for free. Meanwhile, here at Genshin, you're out here rationing stamina like it's a survival horror game, constantly debating whether climbing straight up a wall is worth the risk of slipping off and plummeting to your death, making specific team comps for exploration, filled with characters you probably don't like.
What? You didn't like playing Yelan, Wanderer, Sayu, and I don't know, fucking Ayaka all in the same team?
And farming specifically for stamina foods, for outside of combat, by the way, and that's just the baseline gameplay. We haven't even gotten to the part where Genshin has the audacity to monetize exploration, because fun fact, if you actually want to enjoy exploring in Genshin, you better be ready to drop some cash. Do you want to explore like one of the cool kids in Genshin Impact? You want to fly? You want to ride a motorcycle everywhere? You want to go faster? Oh my god, Mavuika solves all of those problems for only $300.
You're only talking about Mavuika, Glaive. You have to consider every other character in Natlan. You have to consider the fact that every single Natlan character has exploration quality of life. And it improves the experience in Natlan significantly. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Genshin has intentionally designed the entire Natlan region to be a pain in the fucking ass if you don't have the characters. Super clunky, super annoying. The Saurians aren't in the right spots. The Saurians require like so much clunky shit to get through and work with them. And they intentionally designed the entire region in every new map expansion to just fuck you over if you don't pull the characters. Take that with Wuwa, where you don't even need the flight. You don't even need the flight to explore Renacida. It's just a nice to have. Honestly, I feel like exploring Renacida would have been fine if they just didn't have the flight at all. It just makes it a lot more enjoyable. It's not like they intentionally designed the region. Like they still have like the Elusive Realm sprint that lets you go places to places a lot faster, even without the flight. And the flight's just added as a cherry on top. Natlan is just like, go fuck yourself if you don't want to pull on these characters. And by the way, when we go to Snezhnaya, or what is it, fucking Cobra Kai, whatever the new region is called, imagine what those Natlan characters are going to do in that region. Nothing. They're fucking useless unless they're C6.
Yeah, that's right. You want the best exploration character they've ever released? Great. Oh, and by the way, I'd like to note that one Mavuika isn't enough. To actually enjoy exploration and Genshin Impact with Mavuika, you need 7 copies of her. That's right, because for 1 copy, you can just ride it a little bit and then you turn to the normal version again. And you're like, oh, there's not enough. Like, why is it only like a little bit? There's a separate stamina on it and everything. And outside of the region, the stamina is even shorter. Now let's take a look at the C6 of this unit. Oh my god, it refills your energy if you're outside of combat. Why does it have to be in a C6 version? Yahweh knows exactly how to get these money from these plebs, because people like Bran Online will spend all of this money for this character.
Just so you know, Bran Online is also the person that called out how predatory the Mavuika and Silali banner was. And then not even 2 or 3 days after talking about how bad this was for the game and how bad this was for players, he then proceeds to just publicly post that he's C6 the character. I'm still mind blown that he did that. I think I'm gonna be mind blown until the end of time that he did that.
We'll spend all of this money for this character, even though he criticizes it. Oh my god, I hate that Genshin Impact does this predatory services. Oh, but I'm gonna C6 the next unit. What? 7 copies of Mavuika goes up to $2,100 to make exploration tolerable. But sure, Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact have equally good exploration, of course. You're delusional. And anyways, where are the Genshin content creators in all of this? Silent. They just let it happen. No one talks about how how outright predatory this is.
And then they're going to lose their sponsorship. They're going to lose like a significant amount of monetization that they had. Their livelihood, right? Their careers depend on them incessantly glazing the game and never actually offering critique, even though the game sorely needs a shit ton of critique and a lot of fixes. I think it's what Hoyoverse does for all of their games. That's why you never see big CCs or names in the space calling anything that's ever done by the game. The worst they'll say is that it's like unfriendly or that it's like not exactly how they would do it, when it's undeniably 1,000,000% just dog shit, but they're not allowed to call it for what it is.
Even if they do, they just C6 the character when the update drops. Imagine any other game telling you, hey, this is the basic act of playing feel miserable on purpose, but if you give us $2,000, we can fix that for you. People would riot, but because this is Genshin, no one's talking about it. This is sad.
I mean, I talk about this every time I talk about WoW, but the biggest reason why I didn't end up getting that hooked on WoW is because the devs were making it very clear the ways in which it wanted to be similar to Genshin, and the ways in which it wanted to be similar to Genshin, and the ways in which it wanted to be similar to Genshin were things about Genshin I don't like.
So let me get this straight. Zajiv doesn't play Wuthering Waves because it's similar to Genshin, a game he plays. That is quite literally circular logic.
There's a lot of stuff about Wuwa that I love, right? But then like those couple of things that they do that make it like Genshin, that's why Wuwa is just unplayable for me, because it's so similar to Genshin. By the way, guys, this is my 400th Genshin Impact stream ever. Hey, this is my 400th day in a row streaming Genshin Impact, guys. Welcome to 401.
Saying, I don't eat pizza because it reminds me of pizza. What does that even mean? If Genshin is tolerable despite those flaws, why is Wuthering Waves unplayable for having some of the same mechanics? Let's not even forget that Wuthering Waves does it better. Of course, in some aspects, they are inspired by Genshin Impact, but oh my god, Wuthering Waves does it way better. Very, very easy comparison is the weapon banner. How do you look at Genshin's weapon banner and say, oh, it's okay, I don't mind losing $10,000 on it. Oh, Wuthering Waves' weapon system, when you get the weapon, you don't feel as good because it's guaranteed. Yeah, man, I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, seek help. You feel me? Seek help.
Stop it. Get some help.
Like a lot of the decisions they made when it came to like changes from CBT2 to live and quote unquote bug fixes that are which is stuff that was like changed, not because it worked in a way that was different that was described, but because it worked in a way that was different than they intended, which is the sort of stuff that like they can call it a bug fix and it can be considered a bug fix, but in practice it's a change in mechanics, right?
I know exactly what Jeff is talking about, and he is so disingenuous here, it's ridiculous. But let's see what Glaive says.
About a video game or getting a degree in engineering. I thought the topic was whether a game is fun, not a deep dive into patch notes like we're debugging a software release. And then he brings up the changes from beta to live servers and bug fixes, and then saying that it's a problem or he doesn't like it. First of all, what changes? What bug fixes?
So the changes that he's talking about is basically outro skills being removed on a swap. That is called a balance change. That is called a balance change, where the devs decided, outro skills persisting through character swaps is basically forcing players to play quick swap in every single composition if they want to reach the maximum potential for a team comp. And then the devs realized, quick swap is a really, really, really intensive playstyle that requires a massive number of button presses, and we don't want every single comp in the game to require this much technical skill to pilot at their full potential. And so they decided, let's just go ahead. Let's add some differentiations between quick swap teams and hyper carry teams. Let's make one playstyle oriented towards those crazy swaps, and then one that doesn't require as many, so that an entire range of audience, right? A wide range of players are able to enjoy our game, right? And feel like they're playing the game well. You don't necessarily want for a casual game, specifically a gacha one, and specifically one that's on mobile where you're not able to have as much dexterity with your inputs, you don't want players to feel gatekept out of playing the game well, especially in a gacha. Nobody wants to feel like they're bad at the game. Nobody wants to feel like they're not playing the game well. And having these sort of limitations, or as the Jeff calls them, bug fixes, is a way for them to make the game more palatable for more players, and in turn reach a wider audience, and in turn be more successful. Very fair. And I think the balancing that they've done is actually really good for the game. Otherwise, you would have Chang-Li level quick swap gameplay on every single fucking team.
What bug fixes? If that is the standard, why is Genshin still playable to you after years of questionable balance patches and neglected mechanics? I don't remember anyone holding Hoyoverse to that standard when they let data rot in irrelevance, or when they are still to this day have Geo characters interacting with Dendro in literally no way. Anyone remember Eula, by the way? Where is that character? It just sounds like a convenient excuse excuse. Because if we're talking objective changes, Wuthering Waves actively improves with every single update. Meanwhile, Genshin's biggest innovations are the new daily commission dialogue and loading screen tip explaining stamina consumption. Oh, hey, but sure, let's pretend Wuthering Waves is the one failing here.
Like, that made it clear to me that they were leaning more towards casual-friendly gameplay. The only reason why I was interested in Wuwa to begin with was the ways in which it was less casual-oriented than Genshin. But they realized that being more casual-friendly is more profitable.
Yes. And you know what the funniest part is? The Jeff is talking about outro skills being removed on swap, but there are still so many team comps in the game that don't rely on buffing outro skills. Like, you know, dual DPS, which is exactly the type of playstyle that he says he would enjoy. The comps are literally still there, and they get some of the best clear times in the game. And so all the devs did was balance the game. Quick swap dual DPS still gets the best clear times out of everybody on the roster. But hypercarry is way easier to play at an optimal level and isn't very far behind. And so everything that he's saying is wrong with the game or got removed from the game or no longer exists in the game and that's why the devs ruined it and they're just being casual friendly, it's all still there. Everything that he's talking about that's like been removed, it's still there and it's still thriving. And that is the most ridiculous part about his whole breakdown. Like I said, he's working off of CBT logic to talk about why the game is bad, even though one look at the game in its current state, and honestly, 2 months after release, would have completely proven every single thing that he's saying here that he went on a 15 plus fucking minute rant about when he's talking about things being bad with the game. Every single thing he's saying is just literally wrong. And that's the most ridiculous part about his whole breakdown over here, highlighted by him shaving his goddamn face.
It's a good decision. Like, it's gonna make them more money. It's a smart thing for them to do, but it still makes me a little sad.
And now Zajiv said that he liked Wuthering Waves or had interest in Wuthering Waves because it was less casual than Genshin. But now he's complaining that it's becoming too casual, which is weird because even in its most casual state, Wuthering Waves is still sweatier than Genshin has ever been. Let's put this into perspective. Genshin Spiral Abyss, its only real endgame. Oh wait, I misspoke. The only endgame for years. It's just Spiral Abyss. Meanwhile, Wuthering Waves gives you hologram bosses, Tower of Adversity, Whimpering Waste. Oh my god, that new endgame, what? And the Elusive Realms, each of which demands way more effort and strategy than make sure you kill the Hydro Abyss Mage before the timer runs out.
Glaive is missing something really important called the Imaginarium Theater. Yeah, the Imaginarium Theater is one of the worst fucking things I've ever seen. Just imagine like Spiral Abyss, except you only get to bring in a couple of characters. They just rotate them out, and it's basically just like, fuck you if you don't have like XYZ elements built. The Imaginarium Theater is just, it should be studied for how to not create an endgame mode. That is what I think the Imaginarium Theater should be. Whimpering Waste is like 5 million, billion, gajillion, trillion times better than whatever the fuck the Imaginarium Theater is. I don't even know if it qualifies as an endgame, to be honest. It's just that bad.
Ooh, you gotta use the light blue element to take off the blue color. What if you're colorblind? Anyways, there is an option for you to play Elusive Realm at 100 HP. If an enemy even thinks about attacking, you're gone. One stray AoE, one sneeze from the enemy, and immediately you are Lol Shinya's YouTube channel.
This guy's crazy. Yeah, Glaive is just crazy. Glaive's out here making Glaive. Oh Glaive. Oh Glaive.
I can't move. I can't do anything. I can't do any.
Can we just look at what Jeff was doing here actually? What is the issue right now? Let me just see. Okay, he just doesn't dodge.
I can't move. I can't do anything. I can't do any.
Okay, so he just doesn't dodge. Did he try to parry an unparryable attack? I need to see this again. What is he crashing out for?
I can't move. I can't do anything. I can't do any.
Maybe he unbound his dodge button. Aches debuffs you so you can't dodge. Was the debuff applied here? No? No, I think he just missed his dodge.
I can't move. I can't do anything. I can't do any.
So when people say that Wuthering Waves is too casual now, what does that even mean? Because it sure as hell isn't Genshin casual.
Games that have incentives for you to log in every day, to me, are more fun if they also have actual things to do every day outside of those incentives. And echo grinding can be incredibly fun, but the fact that it's gated behind daily resources makes it significantly less fun.
And then Zajiv claims that Wuthering Waves does not give players enough reason to log in daily. Fascinating, because if that's the problem in Wuthering Waves, then what exactly is Genshin's excuse? If anything, Genshin have mastered the art of making daily logins feel like a punishment. You log in, 4 fetch quests that a toddler could complete, spend some resin, and then realize, oh wait, I still have nothing to do. At least in Wuthering Waves, the game respects your time. You can farm echoes whenever you want instead of being told, oops, you hit your resin cap, I guess you're done for today.
Can you play more than one character in co-op yet?
Gacha games as a whole, you're gonna have incentives to log in every day, but it's not like they want you to be playing these games fucking full time. Gacha games would rather prefer, and this is kind of like how their monetization works. They prefer if you log in for smaller amounts of time every day versus log in one time, play for 20 hours, and then not log in for the rest of the week. And the thing is, Wuthering Waves, having infinite echo farming kind of goes against that principle, where it could easily lead to burnout. But they make it so that there's not really a huge amount of benefit other than like slightly optimizing your echo rolling to doing that. But people still have fun just going around the map and killing stuff, right? And actually getting something out of it. In Genshin, it's kind of just like, there literally is nothing to do if all of your quests are done and you're just on the dailies. You will do your daily resin on your 4 artifacts or your 6 artifact grinds, and then it's just over. Like, there's just literally nothing for you to do. You could go and loot all the little interactables and get you some artifact experience, farm you some green artifacts. If you do that, you're touching grass in game. You need to do it in real life. If you're going around, you're farming the green artifacts. I'm gonna be honest. Nobody does that unless they literally have nothing else to do.
Can you play more than one character in co-op yet? Or are you still only one character? Only one character? Yeah. That's another one of the issues, because the combat in WoW is fun because of the swaps. Not being able to swap in WoW is disappointing. It's sad.
And then there's this co-op complaint. He doesn't like it that players only get one character each. Hey Zajiv, if that's your issue, you can ask for it in the feedback survey. Kuro Games actually listens to its players, unlike Genshin devs, who famously ignore every single complaint unless it's about Chongli or New Valette. Wait, do you see a pattern here? Oh, they only listen when money is involved. They only listen when they're afraid of getting sued. In Wuthering Waves, players ask for better movement, improved UI, more meaningful co-op, and guess what? Kuro is actually implementing those things. Meanwhile, Genshin fans have been begging for the loadout system for years, and they got something not even remotely close to that.
I remember there were people being like, yeah, but then it would be too easy. But like, just make the enemies tankier accordingly. If allowing multiple characters means you're gonna end up doing like 5 times more damage in co-op, then make the enemies 5 times tankier, and that's fixed.
Or you know what? Yeah, you are not allowed to have fun in co-op because Dogwave would fire you. I mean, I don't know what you're trying to do here, man. And now his grand solution to improving co-op, make enemies tankier to balance difficulty. Wait. Didn't we all agree that bullet sponge enemies are awful in Genshin? We have spent years complaining about bosses with bloated HP bars who turn every fight into a time-wasting slog. But now that we're talking about Wuthering Waves, suddenly that's the answer? So riddle me this, Batman. You don't like Wuthering Waves because it copies Genshin in the ways you dislike. But your brilliant solution is to copy one of Genshin's worst mechanics.
This is all entirely built off of Zajev's horrifying misunderstanding of co-op as a whole. Yes, let's be honest here. Playing co-op in the overworld is not very fun because nothing has any fucking HP. Guess what? The overworld in general, everything dies too fast. Even the bosses. At full build, when you're against a world boss, right, to farm ascension mats, you'll do your setup on your support and sub DPS, and by the time you swap onto your main, they'll have like 25% of their HP left. That's pretty much a fact, right, as you progress more and more into the game. And there have been co-op endgame modes that have gone ahead and made very, very challenging content, right, that requires very good team play, that requires a healer, that requires you to use outro skills at the right time, right, that requires you to land all of your abilities, rotate through your kit correctly, so that you can build up concerto for your teammates so they can use their intro skills. And it's there. The dynamics are there. And to boil it all down into,
you can't have fun in WoW unless you're swapping.
it's like you have the same exact mechanics that you get from swapping via the intro skills. The only thing you don't get are the fucking animation cancels. And guess what? It would be a fucking disaster having up to 9 characters on the field at once if everybody's able to control 3 and you can quick swap between all 3 of their movesets at the same time. Imagine the visual clutter. That would not really be a game anymore. You can have too many things That's like asking,
Why doesn't Wuthering Waves have 9 characters? Why can't I use numbers 1 through 9 on the keyboard because they're all there? Let me quick swap between 9 of them at once.
because you can have too many things in a game, even if you think they might be good. There's a reason why Zajef is not a game developer. And the fact that he doesn't seem to understand that having 3 characters for each player, and so 9 different things happening on one screen from 9 different kits, the fact he doesn't understand how ridiculous that would be is... I mean, it just speaks volumes, right? It literally just speaks volumes. But yeah, Genshin Impact co-op sucks. Why can't I bring in 17 characters? Why can't I bring in 4 characters per person in Genshin's co-op? Zajef? Dog shit mode. Dog shit mode. They need to fix it immediately. I need 16 characters in one game.
Genshin's worst mechanics. Amazing game design, Zajif. Just inflate the HP bar. Problem solved. Who needs engaging enemy AI or actual mechanical depth when you can just drag fights out for 5 extra minutes? This is exactly the kind of bad fate critique that makes zero sense. If Genshin was doing co-op so well, why do so many fights feel like a single player experience with extra steps? Maybe instead of trying to Frankenstein Genshin's worst mechanics into Wuthering Waves, we should recognize that Kuro Games is actually trying to innovate, and that's exactly why people are enjoying it. Alright, let's lay this out. Zajif doesn't like Wuthering Waves because it's similar to Genshin in the way he dislikes, yet he plays Genshin. If the mechanics are that unbearable, why is one game tolerable and the other unplayable? And then he complains about Wuthering Waves is too casual, but it's objectively harder than Genshin. You cannot tell me that a game with hologram bosses, elusive realms, and TOA, and whimpering wastes is too casual, while praising Genshin, when you can boom color mix in your way out of 90% of the game and call it combat. And there's the daily login contradiction. He wants incentives to log in, but he also doesn't want daily gated content.
Glaive is doing a fantastic job of just like wrapping up and putting a bow on every single like inconsistency that you're seeing in Zajef's response. You can just tell the guy is looking for reasons to not like the game. He's pulling every single reason he can out of his magical hat, to just say why he doesn't play it. And when you dive into the breakdown, when you dive into what his reasons are and his explanations, none of it actually makes any sense at all. None of it. Because if they was true, if it was this bad, if these things were actually making things unplayable, you could apply them, magnify them, and just like do critical hits on all of those critiques for Genshin Impact. And so this is really what the response should be. I don't play Wuthering Waves because my audience is tailored towards Genshin Impact. If I start playing Wuthering Waves, my audience is going to get upset and I am going to have a huge monetary loss from doing Wuthering Waves content. And so because of that, I will not be covering the game because I like making money. That is the actual response. And the thing is, he would have a lot more respect if he just said that. Let's be honest here. He's a bit of a pussy. He's kind of a pussy. It's pretty clear. And the thing is, it would have been better to just not even talk about this shit in the first place if the reasons that you're bringing to the table are this fucking bad. Just don't even talk about it. Just say, I don't feel like talking about Wuwa, and move on. It's literally that easy. Instead, you get into like this whole like fucking Rammus from League of Legends, right? You're entering like defense mode, but your defense mode sucks dick. Your defense mode is awful. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody cares about it. Nobody cares about the reasons you're saying. They just think you're being stupid or facetious or disingenuous. And all of those things would apply when you're saying the game is unplayable or the game is not good because it shares too many things with Genshin. And the reasons you all list out are magnified and amplified 30 times more in Genshin Impact. It's ridiculous.
Which is it? Because last I checked, forcing players to log in daily with resin caps and time-gated events isn't a feature. It's a leash. You're a dog to Dawei. Wuthering Waves actually respects your player's time. And now, that's a problem? Oh, and let's not forget co-op. He doesn't find it fun, but his solutions make no sense. His big idea to fix co-op is make enemies tankier, because we all know everyone loves a bullet sponge. He doesn't like them in Genshin, but apparently, Wuthering Waves needs them. That's like saying, man, I hate traffic, so let's add more stoplights. At the end of the day, Zajif's reasons not to play Wuthering Waves make no sense. It's totally fine if he doesn't like the game, personal preference exists. But when your entire argument is a tangled mess of contradictions, it stops being a critique and it starts sounding like a bad faith nitpicking. If you're playing Genshin, you should at least acknowledge its massive issues. Because right now, a game like Wuthering Waves is offering a better experience for $0. And yet people are bending over backwards to defend a system that actively preys on them. But hey, if you'd rather glide instead of fly, spend $2,000 just to enjoy exploring and play the same content loop for years and years and years. Who am I to stop you?
Bit of a weak ending on Glaive's part. I'm usually used to him dropping like a bit more of like a bomb at the end there. I'm gonna have to give that ending from Glaive a solid like 3 or 4 out of 10. I'm used to like his like 8 or 9s. So definitely a big miss over here. I think he kind of ran out of juice there at the end. But overall, I would say this was a fantastic rundown, right? Of why so many of the things that Jeff is saying don't make very much sense at all. And the thing is, again, like I mentioned before, Brother Man is simply looking for reasons not to play the game. I don't think he does very well streaming it. I don't think his YouTube videos on Wuthering Waves do well. And he's just making up excuses at this point for why he doesn't cover it. And they all just fall flat. They all just fall short. They're all completely full of bullshit. And the thing is, guys, you can't really take anything he's saying seriously. These are critiques that are likely going to be shared and proliferated across Wuwa haters and their communities. And you just got to recognize, right? They're just making shit up at this point. Or they're working off of data. They're working off of takes that are months, if not years old at this point. Because bro is talking about shit from the fucking CBT. Years old at this point. And it's just ridiculous to just refuse, be intentionally obtuse, not keep up with the times, and just act like a fucking geriatric person yelling at the trees. That's what Jeff is doing. Let me know what you all think. Peace out.